Good afternoon, everyone. It is Saturday. Welcome to the RDO Podcast. This is episode 4. As always, I am Jason Von Cannell. This is my co-host and brother Alex Von Cannell. I'm also bringing a special guest with me today.
Sunburn or pimple?
No, pimple. It's gone down a fair bit. Amanda was even talking about putting some concealer on it. I'm like, nah.
I've got one at the moment that is so large on my neck, it feels like a goiter.
Yeah.
And like
it's all about that age now we can get stuff like goiters and like embarrassing actual...
It actually caused tension during my sleep last night.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mad. Now, because you guys will be watching this on Monday, just want to say Happy Father's Day.
Father's Day.
Shout out to all the dads out there. Shout out to all the stay-at-home dads out there. Obviously, it's my first Father's Day. This
as a father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This weekend. So, yeah, hoping to clean up for the family tomorrow. But
Be prepared to be disappointed.
If I don't really care anyway. But it's been a pretty big week, really, from the fatherhood standpoint. Nate's coming along pretty well. He's learned some new stuff. So he's literally gone from sort of being able to shuffle around on his hands and stuff to he's figured out how to get up on his knees. So he's using that to actually sit up now, which is good and also bad because now whenever we go to get him out of his cot in the morning, he'll be sitting up, like holding onto the bars, trying to like climb out already. Yep. So it won't be long before he probably falls over the side for the first time.
Yep.
And now he's actually able to be pretty mobile and is moving around the house. And
I have seen some of the videos. He's quite mobile.
Yeah, and he's so now you actually have to watch him like a hawk. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Like hit that blob phase where you just put them down on the ground and they just stay there. That's like officially over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he's learned some new tricks this week, which has been pretty cool. On the not cool front, he's teething, so he's popped his first 2 teeth.
Right.
Now already.
Which ones?
The 2 at the bottom.
Yep.
At the front, because apparently they're the first ones that come all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been annoying him and bothering him, so he hasn't slept all the last couple of nights. So, yeah, fatherhood, man. Trying to get used to no sleep. It's interesting.
I've had a big week too.
Mm.
Very busy week on the car front. Sold a few, but just lots of running around for some. Like bought some, lots of running around.
Yeah.
But had an interesting morning this morning.
Right.
I got invited to have a nice morning out with the guys at Gold Coast Ferrari.
Okay. Yeah.
Drive a Ferrari out for breakfast, which was really nice. So
yeah,
shout out to Gold Coast Ferrari Gold Coast.
Ferrari Gold Coast, cool.
And they also have the new Ferrari Roma, just doing like a worldwide release tour, and a really impressive display that they have on there. And
what's a Ferrari Roma worth?
I think from like $550 to $850, depending on the options that you put on it.
Yeah, okay. So if you want leather seats and sunroof, it's the $850 one.
If you want Apple CarPlay, it's probably another $7,000. If you want a reverse camera, basically, if you want some of the features that are already standard in your Kia, you will pay extra.
Yeah, right. Good looking car though.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful car.
Yeah.
So that was a nice little start to the Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, shout out to Gold Coast Ferrari. Thanks very much for letting Alex drive one of your cars.
Yeah.
Send him the expensive photo in the mail when he gets it. So this week we wanted to do something. I wanted to do something a little bit more structured this week because I feel like first episode we sort of introduced ourselves a little bit, but we haven't really gone into detail of what you're doing at the moment. So obviously, as you guys already know, Alex back in sort of April, May jumped out of franchise dealership life where you lived for about 17 years to start his own business, which is Autobros Wholesale. Or the Autobros Used Vehicle Emporium, as we like to refer to it. So I kind of just wanted to ask you a few questions, and starting a new business can be a big thing for people. Like you've had the relative safety of a full-time job for the last 17 years, and it's obviously a big deal to jump out of that. Like that's literally half your life. Like you're 34 years old and you've been in the industry for 17 years, sorry. So literally 50% of your life has been knowing that one thing. And it's a pretty big step to jump out of that and go do your own thing. So I suppose that's probably a good place to start. So after 17 years in the motor trade, why did you get out and start your own business?
So it was always the plan.
Okay.
So I knew from a very young age that I was going to get into the motor trade, but because I was going to do my own thing eventually.
Yeah.
I think because Dad had a small business, I always wanted my own small business. I think that's where it stems from.
Yeah.
What was maybe a bit more of a motivator is that I want to do it my way. I want to stock the cars that I stock.
Yeah.
I don't want to stock the cars that a franchise tells me to do.
Yeah.
So, as I was going through my career, I wanted to learn aspects of the trade, so I knew what I was going to do when I jumped in and did it myself.
Okay.
So when this fired off in, I think it was April, is when I really started thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I literally went onto my Google Drive and I had a business plan from I think it was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
That I'd already dabbled with, so I'd already put some thought in it and already had a structure in mind of what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And then in April, I was really like, okay, so what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like now?
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time researching.
Okay.
So people that know me think that I'm pretty flippant when it comes to decisions. I tend to make pretty large decisions, and to everyone watching, they probably seem ad hoc, but I need people to know like the amount of effort and the amount of hours that I put into each decision. Like I know them inside and out before I do it.
Yeah. I mean, look, you are someone who does make pretty big decisions and you go pretty hard at what you're doing. I mean, you bought your first house at, what were you, 21 years old? Still own it now. Okay, that's what, so interesting.
Bought
so,
the other one on a handshake agreement with my neighbour.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Still have that one as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So you sort of did up a business plan like 5 to 6 years ago. How close to that business plan is what you're doing now?
Actually, a lot closer than I expected.
Right.
Like a lot closer, and I think that's because I have spent so much time in the business before, and trying to become aware of those points. You know, those data points. Everything was set. I maybe have added, maybe 20% in terms of different lines on the plan that I didn't know about before. The numbers were super close to what I thought. In some cases better, in some cases worse. But like if I had to compare the 5-year-old one to the current one, they're within a very marginal difference.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you first came out with your business plan 5 years ago. What took you so long?
That's the biggest thing. It's comfort.
Yeah.
It was, and it's funny that like when I look back on it now, the comfortability was knowing every day I would get up, I'd get changed into my uniform, and I'd go to work. That was the comfortable part. I wouldn't say the job was necessarily that comfortable. It's gone. The industry's gone through a very the motor trade, new car motor trade, is very tumultuous. It has been for the last 5 years, especially. I wouldn't say it definitely was not easy, but the security in knowing that you were going to get a paycheck and you had somewhere to be, that was the comfort zone. And it wasn't till COVID hit where I think I was rostered on for 11 days in April. They cut all our hours back because there's just nothing happening. The phone went from ringing 25 times a day to twice a week. Like in the height of it,
it was pretty crazy, wasn't it? Because like it was literally like the tap just got turned off because no one knew anything. Like you didn't know how bad COVID was going to be as a disease. Like we're so fortunate that it's ended up being pretty mild. Like it obviously spreads really, really quickly, but it's pretty mild for a lot of people. And look, obviously I don't want to make light of it because there are a lot of people out there who passed away, and that's really, really unfortunate. But compared to normal flu season too, like I think the flu itself is probably less transmissible but more deadly than what COVID is, which is fortunate. But none of us knew that back then.
We didn't know if we could come out of the house. We didn't know that if we we stayed too close to someone, whether we would get it or if surfaces had been touched. So in April, when I was not working on those 11 days, I was putting the finer points in.
Yeah.
And when I say finer points, like I said, I research a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So property, I reckon I made 40 phone calls. I probably spoke to 10 or 15 different leasing agents, talking about rents, dollars per square metre, to get an understanding of the market, because my 5 year ago plan was not in Brisbane, it was on the Gold Coast.
Right.
So obviously two different markets.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go on a walk with my headset on and my phone out, and I would search properties and then just ring, search property, ring, search property, ring.
Yeah.
Then when I'm back, I was calling business brokers to talk about funding. I was in the midst of getting my dealer's license, registering business name, organising insurance. I had actually my partner, she was very, very helpful. She made me put a list of the things that I needed to check off, and then held me accountable for those things.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy, and 5 years ago the same thing happened where I had it sitting there ready to go, and I just never acted on it. So she was very much like, okay, so what's on the plan today? Yeah. So what are you achieving today? Yeah. And I'll be like, okay, today I want to find a shed. Tick. Today I need to organise insurance. So fear was the reason why I didn't do it. Fear and comfortability was the reason why I didn't do it before. Yeah. Also, from another security thing was income. Say your income was here. You know that you're going to go. Your income's going to drop to here, and you're like, well, is that gap worth making the plunge, or do I just keep doing what I'm doing? Because that's it. To do what you do is easy. Yep. So when my roster dropped down by a massive margin, more than I've ever seen, to an unprecedented level. Well, I'm going from here to here.
All of a sudden the level of risk shrunk completely.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't do it in the 5 years.
Yeah, okay. A couple of interesting points out of that for me, because one of the things that you always hear when you talk to someone who has either started their own business or has been running a successful business for a long time is they'll always be asked, like, so what advice would you give to someone who's thought about starting their own business? And they all just go, look, just do it. You just got to do it. You just got to get out there. And I think to a degree, you do need to do that. But something that came out of what you just said was doing your research is so important. And actually doing your research. Like you said, 40 different phone calls about the property. I remember speaking to you about when you were looking for a shed and you were looking for places. And what you've ended up with here is so much different to what you were talking about at the beginning of it. Like not only in size, but even in affordability as well. Yeah. So because you did your research, I feel like you've done a really good job at setting yourself up with the perfect base to start with. Yeah. Rather than just going, all right, I'm just going to have that just do it mentality. I'm going to jump out. I'm going to jump into the first commercial property that I can get my hands on. Yeah. And you might be doubling your overheads right from the beginning.
Yeah, it's not. I like the just do it thing. Is definitely it's the full stop. Yeah. You can't just do it until you've researched it. So just enact your plan. I think you have to plan. And I've done business plans up before where at the end of it I'm like, this doesn't work. The cost is too high, the yield that I'm going to get on sales is too low, the amount of input I need to put in and it's clear as day, that plan won't work. Yeah. So then you have to redo it. So my plan was very close to what the reality has shown so far. But I did painstakingly research every line, every aspect of it. I knew there wasn't many surprises.
Okay, so interesting. So you said there wasn't many surprises. Is there anything about running your own business which is different to how you perceived it would be before you actually started? So so you would have done your business plan up, got to April this year and gone, all right, cool, I'm going to enact my business plan now. So is there anything now that you're almost 6 months into it that is different how you perceived it would be before you started?
I don't want to sound... It's much easier than I thought. Okay. It's much easier than I thought. I think because, again, that fear, that lizard brain gets in and goes, this is going to be hard, you're not going to... It's not going to work. You're not going to succeed. If it was easy, everyone would do it. So going in with that mentality, I kind of started second guessing like what a day's work looked like.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I had to go back to one of my own organisational fundamentals, which was literally writing a list every day of the stuff that you need to do and ticking them off as you go.
Yeah.
It's the most powerful tool. It sounds so ridiculous, but you could go in to work and just go, oh man, I've got so much on. But once you write it all down, structure it, and tick them off as you go, wait a minute, it actually wasn't that hard.
Yeah, that's right.
And at the end of the day, once I've ticked everything off, it's easy. I go home with a clear mind, clear conscience, and I'm not really thinking about anything. I've lost more nights sleep before taking the plunge than since I've had it. Since I've been running it.
Do you think part of that, like taking the plunge fear thing, goes back to that evolutionary thing we spoke about last week, where you're going from being in the safety of the pack, where
I'm in my cave, but I think there's a cave that's over there that's better. Well, I'm just going to stay in this safe one.
Well, not even that. Like that might be part of it, but it might also be like, as a dealership, you could say that you go out hunting sales, right? And you work as a group. So working as a group, you would think hunting down those sales would be easier to do. However, you also got to share it with the rest of the group, right? Whereas now you've ostracized yourself from the group, which, as we said last week, evolutionary speaking, ostracizing yourself was a death sentence back in the day. So that's why there is that inbuilt fear of doing so. But obviously, if you're going out hunting on your own, you don't have to share it with anyone. Yeah,
the main part of my model was that it is skinny, it is slim, it is just me, it is very, very
your business model, not yourself, not you as a model.
No, my
you as a plus size model.
I'm a plus size model running a streamlined,
a size 6 business.
Yeah. And that was very important to me because it made sense. You could go, look, you could run this. You could run the same business that I've got now, and with 3 times the budget. But I'm not 100% sure that you're going to get 3 times the yield out of it. So I'm like, well, I want to work it up slowly and steadily.
I think that's been a learning experience for a lot of business people over the last 6 months, hasn't it? Is, the key to riding out a tough period is to have low overheads and low expenditure. Because you even just have to think about it from a stress perspective. Like, if you've got low overheads and you go through a tough time, you're going to be okay, you can go through it. If you've got high overheads and you go through a tough time, you actually don't know.
Yeah, I'm not, because I haven't run the entire business, a high yield business, a large turnover business. Something that I've got out of what I'm learning about myself is that I've got this attitude that if there's something that I don't know or I'm not good at, become good at it.
Yep.
So I'm very aware of the things that I'm not that strong at, and I really want to work on those things to become better at it. Because there's no option.
Have you got an example?
Accounting.
Right.
As part of my career in the motor trade, I've done next to no accounting. Everyone in my network said just go get an accountant. But I actually went counter to that and I said, no, I want to know the ins and outs of the accounting side so I get a better understanding of my business. Yeah. It's not my strong suit. I'm not a data collection guy.
I think that's such a good point. Such a good point. You need to know the fundamentals yourself, not just entrust everything. Now, you don't need to go and do an accounting degree, but you need to know the fundamentals. Speaking from experience, so over the last 2 years when I was in the dealerships, I did a lot of finance, right? And now part of selling a financial product in Australia is we're not allowed to give financial advice. So you can give options, scenarios, you can answer questions, but you're not allowed to give targeted advice. I can't go, Alex, because the way your business is set up, this is the right way for you to fund your purchase. You're not allowed to. So more often than not, if you've got business people or even privatees as well, they would often go, oh, look, I just want to speak to my accountant first. And some of the ways of spending people's money, these accountants have sent them back to tell them to do, I'm like, That's so dumb.
Mm.
So dumb. Like, you know, when I was at Volkswagen, for example, and they would do these cheap rate campaigns. So the rate campaigns were unreal because they were like 1.99% interest rate, no setup fees, no ongoing fees. Like, you can't buy money any cheaper than that.
Yeah.
You're not
because it's paid for by the manufacturer.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I did the sums when, you know, like, I've got a mortgage with an offset account. Leaving my money in my offset account and financing a car at 1.99%, you'd be ahead every single time. But the amount of accountants when I was at Volkswagen clients who would come back and be like, oh, no, my accountant's told me not to do that. Or the worst is like, oh, my accountant's got a financier that they use, that they suggest. Yeah. Like, and that's taking the backdoor money. So, yeah, I think it's really, really important. Utilize people like accountants, but you need to know enough about it yourself to, number one, know whether or not you've got a good one.
Yep. And
then number two is to know whether or not you're just getting screwed.
Well, I that's the big thing that scares me is that, like, how do I know that their standard of success is the same as mine? They might think everything's going great, but they might have massive blinders, and because they're filling me with confidence that they know what they're doing, I could be missing massive opportunities. So that's
absolutely.
why I want to understand that aspect of it, and that is something I've really worked my ass off. Got some help from some friends that were kind enough to invest some time in me because I want to understand it.
Yeah.
And going back to what I said about being part of a big organisation, what I'd like to think is that attitude would translate in, if I was in a really big place, the same philosophy still applies. Not do it all yourself, but identify what it is that the problem is and really work at sorting that out.
Yeah. So this is slightly off topic, so make it very brief as a point. Any manager out there in a big organisation, I think one of the most important things that you can do is if you oversee a business that's got different departments, like the motor trade, where you've got sales, you've got admin, you've got service, you've got aftercare, you've got accessories, you need to actually stick your nose. Like, most people have gone up to that position through one pathway or the other. They haven't done all the different facets. Then you need to stick your nose into the things that you don't understand and get a general understanding of them first before you actually then come through and go, okay, look, I think we should do this, that, and the other. Because I think there's plenty of people out there who get to a management position who want to tell everyone how to do things when they don't have a basic understanding of the actual function of the job every day as well.
I've been listening to podcasts lately about from Formula One.
Yeah.
So some people, if you're not a Formula One fan, you might think Formula One is just a guy in a car racing around in circles. Some of these Formula One teams have over 1,000 staff in one team, right? They have, Mercedes has over 800 people just working on the engine, okay? Massive organisation. Yeah. And
what did you tell me Mercedes spent on R&D for their cars? Was it $700 million?
No, not on the cars. Just on the engine. When they went to turbo hybrid era, 2014, they had spent $700 million on just developing an engine. And that's why they're dominating. Yeah. But that was a plan. They had a plan in advance, and they executed that plan better than anyone else. And that's why they are demolishing the field now. Yeah. But the common thread, so these great, the successful teams, the successful bosses, team engineers, principals, team principals, what I found interesting is they all said the exact same thing, which is build a team of good people and let them do their job. Yeah. There was no one that said become the boss and then literally go to every single person and say, oh, do it like this, do it like this, do it like this. Micromanaging is not part of it. Yeah. Now, you might micromanage some of the details, but hire talent and let the talent be talented. Yeah. They all said the same thing. And I found that really interesting. And I think, going back to the fear thing, I think when you are scared or when you don't know, the best thing the natural thing to revert back to is, all right, just do it the way that I want to do it so I've got control over it. Yeah. But instead, you should go against that and empower the people that you have working with you to do their thing. Yeah. Because they got to that position for a reason. So I'd like to think when I go big, I want to keep reminding myself that's the way to do it. That's how the successful people do it. It makes sense to me.
And it gets buy-in from every staff member at every level buys into the overall picture because they know that you as a leader trust them to do your job. So you've been brought in because you've got a certain skill set and they trust you with that skill set to do that skill set. And look, obviously there's going to be times when if the result suffers or if you lose a second lap for Mercedes, they'll be like, all right, who's responsible for this?
Yep.
And you might get grilled. But it's not every single day of being over the top of your back.
No. Mercedes the strongest, so Toto Wolff is the team boss.
Yeah.
No blame policy. They have in their organisation a no blame policy. Yeah. So if there is something there, they'll bring the people together.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that does not happen again?
Yeah, right.
Not you did this. It is, then that is a rule that he has brought over.
Yeah.
Toto Wolff is a race driver, but a finance guy.
Right.
He's big in investment banking.
Yeah.
So it was weird to get him to come in to manage a team. But that philosophy I thought was really special.
Well, and it's interesting too, right? Because they're the most successful team in the last 5 to 10 years.
Oh yeah. They'll be the strongest ever of all time.
Yeah. And like that creates a workplace of choice, right? So the best people are going to want to go and work for Mercedes and have that experience.
Yeah.
Because it is the most positive working experience you can have.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. All right, getting back to your business, because obviously you don't have a staff yet.
Not yet.
You know, apart from our old band that you order around
once a week,
to do your jobs for you. So with your business, so we've spoken about why you've started it. So you're 6 months in, you're going fairly well. Has anything, apart from you said before that it's been a little bit, I guess, easier than expected. Apart from that, has there been anything surprising for you about running your own business?
No.
Okay.
No. The one surprising, it's not even surprising. The one thing I would say is that, and then this might be a different subject. I'm not sure if it's a question that you might ask later on, but one of the beauties of my business is that my passion, it aligns with my passion.
Yes.
My passion is strange, weird, and wonderful cars. And now I get to have a job or a business where I get to buy all the things that I wanted to buy before and sell them for a profit. And I get the benefits of ownership. I get all the cool parts of it.
Yeah.
I get the experience of buying something new, which was my passion. In my previous job, I would earn good money and I would spend that money to buy something, like buy a toy.
Yeah.
I'd use the toy for a little bit only on Sundays because it's the only day that I really had off. But now it's my business.
Yeah.
So I've got opposite ends of the vehicular spectrum out there. Like I've got a little WRX that's, I'll take to the racetrack to have it because I'm a big fan of Lakeside Raceway. And I've got an old luxury S-Class Mercedes, which is like the cruiser.
Yep.
So it's cool going on that journey. So my business aligns with, I'm almost getting extra value. Forget the income. I get to do what my passion is. Yeah. So that's what makes it a lot easier. Yeah. And I realised when I was in the franchise dealership world, is that alignment wasn't there. So yes, it's cars, but it's not my cars. It's
also the higher up. Like the only way to have financial success in the franchise business is to climb up through the ranks. And the further up through the ranks you climb, just like most other jobs, the further away from the initial passion, which is the cars that you get. And the higher you get, obviously, instead of playing with cars every single day, which is your passion, talking to people about cars every day, it's politics, it's people, it's, charts.
It's just other bullshit. Bullshit that gets
stuff that gets you away from what your original passion is. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really sounds like you're on the right path when it comes to having a business, because the number one thing that you hear from anyone, I'm a big fan of a guy called Simon Sinek, which you may have heard of, and a lot of you out there may have heard of. If you haven't heard of him and you are looking at, if you're in a management or a leadership position or you want to be, look him up. He's written an amazing book called It Starts With Why, and he always talks about people's why and why it is that you do things, because normally people start with, okay, what's the result that I want? and how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
Rather than what you've done, which is you go, what's my passion? What do I love doing every single day? Well, I love cool cars.
Yeah.
All right, well, how can I create a business for myself where I get to actually just experience my passion every single day?
Yeah. It's almost, you almost get forgetting the monetary side. There's intrinsic value for me in doing that. And it might not mean anything to anyone else, but, you know, I get to drive cool cars, experience cool cars, which is what I used money for before.
Yeah.
But now I can do it more frequently. Like, it's funny. Now I can be online looking at cars, and before, like, Tasha was like, no, you can't have that. And now she's like, get it.
Yeah, good work.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah. So there's another example of why this works for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you just recently imported a vehicle.
Yeah, from Japan.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So it used to be very big here. There used to be a massive import scene from Japan. It died off to change some of the rules to try and protect local manufacturing that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So they've loosened some of the laws up.
So explain to people why people import from Japan.
Japan's got way more people than us, they sell way more cars than us, and they've got some cool cars that we don't get here. Like, people don't realise that the Australian market makes up, I think it's less than 2% of the global car market. Yeah. I heard a stat from a Honda guy once. Honda in America sells more Honda Civics in 1 month than Honda Australia sells Hondas in a year. Wow. Okay, so that's that's one country. Yeah. Japan's got way more people than us, way more cars, and really cool stuff. So
they've got some registration cost issues too as cars get older, don't they?
Yeah. So they're very much, they don't want old stuff on the road. So I think after the 5th year, your insurance, your registration goes through the roof. So people just tend to swap them out and buy another one. And the mileage is very low too, because now there was a lot of cars that were wound back in the day. It was a business model that people did. Yeah. It's very dodgy, highly illegal, but people used to do it. And now there's a stigma attached that the cars imported from Japan's got low mileage because it's been
wound back.
Yeah. But I've been to Japan a few times, and my friends over there, like I remember I was there in 2014, and my friends had a 2008 Honda Insight that had 1,800 Ks on it. I'm like, why are the Ks so low? It's like, well, I take the train to work, and the husband takes the push bike, and you walk to dinner. Like, the car is in one of those, like, elevator, so it's underground, and they only use it if it's really, really wet, or they're taking people out. Yeah. So that's literally the only time. So the car that I didn't buy a Japanese car from Japan. I actually bought an S-Class Mercedes, a 94, a W140, which, if I'm going to get real nerdy for a second, Mercedes over-engineered that car, so much so that the dealerships started complaining because they weren't getting any warranty work and they weren't selling any more cars. Yeah. So after the W140, I think it went to the W220. I'm going to get roasted if I get it wrong. And they made a lesser quality vehicle.
Isn't that funny, right? And it's such a sad thing for me about the world, because as human beings, we're all about progress. And when you really condense what we do every single day to anything, it's we want to evolve and we want to improve and we want to get better. So look at how much technology has jumped in the last 50 years, and also compared to the last 5 years as well too. Like, the jump's astronomical. But there's also this element of, but we need to create our own customers. So can you imagine what sort of cars Mercedes would be pumping out now if they didn't have that, economic influence of, well, we need these people to come back and actually service them with us and get spare parts and, drive our businesses forward?
Well, we could go on a massive tangent on here, but I'll say this. We think that electric cars are a new thing. The first electric cars were in 1890. Yeah, right. 1890. There were electric cars on the road. You could buy them. 1890.
Really?
Yeah. So other bodies get involved and remove that. So we have not increased our, like, if we would have really developed from 1890 to now, imagine what we'd have.
But it would be like Back to the Future.
It would be like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
So an interesting side note is the difference between, I would say, China's mentality on intellectual property to the rest of the world's.
Right.
So China's culture, so they don't have intellectual property rules. So everyone goes, oh, it's a cheap Chinese copy. It's Chinese copy.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand is their culture is different. So in the Western world, if I create a phone, I'm going to put a patent on all the intellectual property, so I own it. So you cannot, as my competitor, cannot copy it. In China, they go, this is what I've created. What do you think? And then you would go, oh, here, this is what I can create. This is my version of it. This is the improved part. What do you think?
Yeah.
And that's why in the
you get
last...
that continuous improvement.
And that's why the Chinese smartphone has gone from literally next to zero to some of the best out there in such a short amount of time. So I do, and same with my business. I want that mentality. That's what we're talking about on the podcast. I will share all the information because I want, if someone can benefit from it, like, power to them. Yeah. Like, I want people to progress. I want us to be better, and me holding on to that information doesn't help anyone. No. Doesn't even help me. Yeah. Whereas I'd rather impart it. And I'd like someone else to come, hey, look, I tried this the other day, you should try it. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, and I want to share ideas.
Yeah. So, okay, before, because we got the thought provoker and we're sort of on a similar vein, so I think I want to throw it in there. But before we move on to that, so just to summarize a couple of things about your business, from what I've learned just from this little conversation with you, is number one, if you're going to do it, what's your passion? How can you align your passion with your work? Because they say if you do something you love, then you never work a day for the rest of your life. So number one, find out what your passion is and how can you align it. Number two, have a business plan.
Have a plan.
And be willing to change it, break it, fix it, tweak it, do whatever. Number three, do your research. So, and again, do a lot of research. Don't get yourself to a point where you're having paralysis by analysis and you do nothing because you research all the things that can go wrong. Research all the things that you need to know about to give yourself the best opportunities to succeed.
I just want to touch on that. Most of my network has told me how it can go wrong.
Right.
And for what it's worth, my brain, I do not register that because if something doesn't work, I'm going to fix it. Okay. So if there is a pitfall in my business, I'll fix it. And that's my attitude towards it.
And that is one of the benefits about having a small business, is that you can pivot this whenever you need to. Whereas if you've got a large scale organisation, it's like turning around the Titanic, right? Like it takes so much longer to actually turn that thing around. So those points. And then lastly, you just got to do it.
You just got to do it.
You just got to do it.
Pull the trigger.
Pull the trigger. And again, if you do some research, and anyone out there who is looking at starting their own business, there are even some government programs, which I'd never even heard of before, which you can get involved in. They're free programs. They give you some training. They can even give you a bit of an income for up to 6 months as well too, as you try to get things off the ground. So definitely look into those programs and hit us up.
YouTube, the amount of information that's on YouTube, you could like, we just talked about universities the other day. You could learn more off YouTube, I think. And learn exactly what you want whenever you want.
Well, that's the whole thing, isn't it? Like, there are people who have researched and studied their entire lives on a certain subject that will then do a presentation on that subject on YouTube, which you can just go and watch it if you feel like it.
It's powerful. Use it.
Yeah. Okay, so on that note, the thought provoker for this week. That saying, the best thing since sliced bread. That saying's been around for a long time. Sliced bread, if I remember correctly, and I'll look this up, but I believe the bread slicer was released in, I think it was July 1928.
So it's like an automatic slicer. So the one
like
you
an
see
automated bread slicer
that cuts them all in the same size.
Yeah. So the best thing since sliced bread. It's now 2020. In your opinion, what is the best thing since sliced bread?
Yeah, okay, so I think the obvious answer would be the internet, but we did kind of discuss that the internet's trash.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Because, the internet, it's got amazing features.
But it ain't sliced bread.
It ain't sliced bread.
Yeah.
I don't think there are any negatives to sliced bread.
I don't think there's any negatives to sliced bread, although I would say that I'm more on the boutique side and would prefer to cut my own slice of bread so I can gauge the thickness.
Still a douchebag.
Yeah. So I think the best thing since sliced bread, I think it has to go to the smartphone.
Right.
So, because you could watch sliced bread videos, like nothing is more powerful.
So you say that as a joke.
Yeah.
I could tell that I'm officially a dad now because when I go through my Instagram search, if you go to the search section, do you know what the algorithm primarily throws up for me now?
What?
Steak videos. So videos of them cooking steak in a different way.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, I bought the other day an ox heart at the shops. Because I was like, you know what, just going to try it. Been doing a lot of research lately about the health benefits of, eating nose to tail and how a lot of the organ meats have a lot more higher in vitamins and minerals.
Yeah,
and
more nutrient dense.
Yeah, and in Western culture, it's not a primary part of the meat eating experience. So it was super cheap, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, bought a heart. Thought I've never cooked a heart before. I've got no idea. I mean, I'm not really a cook anyway, but I've got no idea how to prepare this thing. Jumped on YouTube. On my phone, bang, cool, looked up some stuff. It's actually really, really good.
Well, two examples that I had is I tried to Google something the other day. I was trying to find where a certain part in the engine of the car was, and I went to all the forums, and it just wasn't clear. I searched on YouTube, and someone had obviously had the exact same thought process as me. I was like, okay, I need to find the starter motor on a S320. Oh, what you do is you open it here and you can see, if you shine your torch down there, you can see it.
Yeah.
It was perfect. I was driving down the road the other day and I saw a car broken down the side of the road. Very young couple there. They were probably 17 or 18 years old.
Yeah.
And they both had the phone out, bonnet open, and I'm confident, like, if they
Yeah.
do their research right, they can fix that.
They'll fix it themselves.
Yeah. And I think
because that's the
great.
thing.
That's powerful.
You can look up the exact model of whatever it is. It could be a car. It could be I'm looking at removing my garbage disposal from at home because it's all jammed up. So I could look up the exact model and get a YouTube clip on how to remove it or how to replace it.
So I think that there's probably been nothing as profound as... I think the only thing that smartphone doesn't do is slice bread. But there's nothing that can communicate, entertain, inform,
connect,
help, nurture. Like, I don't think
film a podcast.
It's really the best thing since
So funnily enough, I mentioned to Alex earlier in the week what this thought provoker was going to be, but we deliberately didn't discuss what we thought it was going to be, apart from saying that, most people would say the internet. I was going to say the smartphone as well.
Oh, yeah.
For the exact same reason. So, yeah, there we go. So we're in agreement. The best thing since sliced bread is the smartphone.
So now they just need to make a case with a bread slicer on it.
I'm sure. Go on to Ali's, man. Alibaba's tonight, and next week you'll probably have it.
We'll display it here.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, guys. Look, I think let's wrap it up there.
Yep.
So, a couple of things I just want to say. Number one, again, happy Father's Day, and shout out to Freddie Von Cannell, our father.
Yep.
This podcast is your fault because you raised us.
Yep.
Along with Mum, but she gets a shout out on Mother's Day. Shout out to all the fathers, all the dads.
Mothers being fathers.
Yeah. Oh, they get Mother's Day too.
All the stepfathers, all the guys that aren't fathers but are acting as fathers.
Yeah, stepfathers I don't think get a big enough rap a lot of the time too. So look, all the dads out there in every way, shape and form, be the best dad you can be. That's the number one thing. What is interesting too, right? And I got to say thank you to my old man because since I started doing the stay-at-home dad thing, Nate's going to have no idea how much stuff I do for him. Like, it's hard work. I oftentimes will go, you know what, I could leave the house, but it'd be too difficult and I'll stuff his naps up or whatever. So I just don't. And I'm just trying to invest as much time in him as I possibly can. And he'll never know until maybe he's old enough to have his own kids. So shout out to Dad. Thank you very much for all the time that you invested in the two of us. So yeah, happy Father's Day, everyone. If you are looking at starting your own business, again, please go through those points. I think there's some really, really good stuff.
Hit us up on socials if you've got any questions. Reach out. I'm happy to help with anything that I can, or even extend some of my network to you. I'm happy to do that too.
For sure. And speaking of networks, just want to give a shout out to Sam Harder from SJH Carpentry, who installed my new shade sail this week at home as well. Did an amazing job. Really, really good guy. If you have any work around the house that needs doing on the Gold Coast, please again hit me up and I can connect you with him.
Put a link.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the the bio at the bottom of this.
For RDO Gold Coast, thank you.
Yeah. So look, shout out to everyone. But guys, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next RDO.
Bye.